Our first speaker is my father, Dennis Klocek. He has been an amazing inspiration to me over the years with his deep dedication to personal work, with sharing this picture of creative imagination that can both heal the soul, the soil, and the world. And he started the Coros Institute, as I mentioned. He was the director of the Goethean Studies and Consciousness program at Rudolf Steiner College for many years. He's an international lecturer, author of 12 books on everything from the natural sciences and weather to anthroposophy, and even on drawing. He's a master of fine art as well. And currently, he's still doing research in his home garden in California and still offering courses through soilsoulandspirit.com. He's going to join us today talking about the Book of Nature and the Book of Man and how those two work together to allow us to find a middle path where we're not too stuck in reductionist science or lost in the mystery of the mystic side.
I always say, when you think you know you don't know, but that's when you begin to know.
Right?
Yeah,
Speaking of technology, right?
yeah. I
Yeah.
want to thank Ben. I want to thank Joe and Matthias for kind of carrying this work. I had a funny thing happen yesterday. I was talking to Ben on the phone. He said, "Oh, there's this article. I forget what it was, something about." Um,
Biodynamics between abstraction and mysticism.
There you go. But and he started saying what it was about, and I'm going, "Oh, well, that's cool." I said, "Who wrote that?" He said, "You did." Well, there you go. I guess that's what happens when you get. It's just well, I've been just writing articles for a long time and then filing them away, and now all of a sudden they're being mined by Ben and Joe and Matthias to give me a feeling like in my old age, I still have some street cred. And I need to tell you, when Ben read the list of all the countries that are participating, I got tears in my eyes. Uh,
Yeah, pretty
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, pretty amazing. About 5 years ago, I reached a point where I thought, this is it for me. My teaching's over. And that's when Ben started talking to me about being online. I was like, "Oh, I don't do that stuff. I don't do that stuff." But here I am. So, yeah, so I think with world events the way they are unfolding, there is a deep need for people to experience for themselves, we could say, truth. Because I think, along with Rudolf Steiner, his admonition is the greatest and most ancient evil is lying. And I think we're in the shit chute for that one. So I think it's really important that at this turn in world events that we find for ourselves a way to affirm that there is a reality in the world that can be trusted. And, it's my experience that you can't receive that from someone else. You can get prodded to do it by someone else, and you can get some instructions on maybe how to do it from someone else. but you actually have to do it for yourself. So there's an old saying that says, you need to trust in God, but tie your donkey. You know, trusting God, yeah, okay, whatever. God's there, I'm here. Hey, God, how come you're not in my life? And tie your donkey means you need to do the work to confirm for yourself that there is a dimension of life that makes sense. And if you can find that, my understanding is that the way to do that is to find the sweet spot between science today that is so technical and mysticism that is, I can make anything up and say it, and that's what is. Now, we could say that's a root of mysticism. Somewhere in the middle, between those two things, is a dimension of self-education about how the natural world is a primer, a workbook, we could say, for self-development. The natural world has certain forces and laws in it that, as Ben said, are invisible. And that's what science researches, the invisible, but they do it in a binary consciousness because of machines. And the other side is a mystical point of view that if I can just say I believe something and I state that, and I get enough people on my side to say that's what it is, then that becomes a reality. So there's an old saying, a half-truth often repeated begins to resemble truth. And I think that's where we are. We're in the realm of half-truth. In the old world, in alchemy, that was called the simulacrum, the simulated culture. And if you want more information, look in the French academic circles in the 1950s for the idea of the simulacrum, simulacrum, a simulated world. We live in a simulated world that puts people in a very uneasy place because they can't find within themselves the ability to find truth. So the work we're trying to do with biodynamics is to say to people, there is a thread, there is a stream of knowledge that requires a person to themselves explore the way in which their own inner life interacts with the invisible forces in the natural world. And that, since the beginning, has been the source of religion, a religious impulse, having nothing to do with churches or organized priesthoods or whatever. This is, how do I, as a person, connect to the invisible forces of the natural world and let them influence me in such a way that I begin to have imaginations about myself and the people that I am living with in the world. Can I find out of the law of red in fang and claw, as they used to say, the violence of the natural world? Can I find sympathy and cooperation? That's there also, but it's been marginalized by attention to the aggressive nature found in predator and prey. So the work we're going to do in this weekend is to invite some friends of mine and some people who have devoted their lives to trying to find that middle way. So I made a little tutorial, a little illustrated video to try to give a picture of some people who were in the circle of Rudolf Steiner, who took up the task of exploring that world using his guidance. And they have been, in a way, marginalized by a push in biodynamics to go corporate, which is kind of the way the world is happening now. Everything goes corporate and you get the picture. So maybe we should roll that video and then we'll get back. Okay, Ben?
Sounds good.
Great. In past times, when humans had to interact directly with nature, it was thought that there were two great cosmic books. The book of nature was read by paying attention to the world as it was given. Today, the book of nature is science. The book of the human was read by paying attention to things that nature did not produce. That is, any activity from flaking arrowheads to making hearths to constructing altars of piling stones. In a word, the book of the human was some form of art. The polarity was science and art. Both books were thought to originate in the same divine workings of the cosmos. The cosmos was divided into the crystal heavens of the immovable stars of the zodiac on the periphery, and the more predictable movements of the planets inside that with the solar system. The study of the relationships that brought the two books into harmony was known as star wisdom or cosmic wisdom. Priesthoods based their healing ceremonies and their ritual practices on star wisdom. The priest function required simultaneous knowledge of the soul and knowledge of natural substances that were transformed into the tools to manage ritual practices. Along with substances and tools, very particular attention was paid to the most effective stellar ritual points in time and space. They knew that the correct time and space to bring things together was the most important part. The time-space linking involved the knowledge of cosmic planetary movements. In his agriculture course, Rudolf Steiner based much of the indications on cosmic wisdom. Of the 151 pages of text, there are 167 references to cosmic wisdom. Of that total, 75 references are to sun, moon, and cosmic force. The rest are to the other planets. While Steiner was alive, these references inspired much research in finding a scientific basis for the spiritual relationship between the cosmos and life on Earth. These studies were grounded in the phenomenological approach found by Goethe, where the importance of rhythmic intervals in the forms of plants and animals was stressed. The link between cosmic rhythm and the formal sequences that are visible in phenomena drove much study in early biodynamic circles. Those studies were often linked to traditional planting and livestock management practices connected to zodiacal and lunar influences. In Steiner's circle, the demands of the time made it necessary to formulate research in experiments that scientifically supported such traditional wisdom. Working with Lily Kalisko, Steiner developed the capillary dynamolysis method. This image depicts a strip of filter paper that was immersed in a solution of plant saps mixed with silver nitrate salt. The silver nitrate stains the paper as the solution is wicked upwards by capillary action of the fibers that are in the filter paper. The paper then dried and 2 more immersions result in an image of the flowing potential or the life force of a particular sample of plant sap. In the experiments, It was often observed that certain planetary aspects radically affected two pictures of sap from the same plant. Lily Kalisko ended up calling a picture like this one a Mercury signature. She found that Mercury, in a crucial planetary aspect, had a strong influence on the formations of the plant sap. Many different experiments were done for other planetary influences while Rudolf Steiner was alive. Growing out of this research, Theodor Schwenk later developed a highly technical laboratory practice that produced subtle results depicting water qualities. The image shows a glass dish with a small amount of glycerin in the center. The dark bar is a dropper that can be controlled to produce a drop of water sample at very specific rates. The water sample drops first to form a turbulence ring in the glycerin. The subsequent drop breaks through the turbulence ring and forms a series of small vortices streaming outwards. As drops keep falling, vortices stream further and further through the glycerin, giving a picture of the streaming potential of a water sample. This image depicts a water sample with strong vital energies for streaming. This image depicts the type of picture that a polluted water source would produce. All streaming power has been lost. Jennifer Green was trained by Schwenk and later brought these highly technical methods to America in her Water Research Institute in Blue Hill, Maine. Jennifer, a passionate advocate for water, developed protocols for municipal water treatment that drew much corporate attention. While Steiner was alive, Ehrenfried Pfeiffer was his personal research assistant. Pfeiffer accompanied Steiner to the agriculture course. Trained as a scientist, Ehrenfried Pfeiffer brought his scientific laboratory expertise to North America to found the BD movement there based on scientific methods. Pfeiffer developed the sensitive crystallization method that could reveal hidden forces in substances in both plants and animal organisms. Pfeiffer's great contribution to biodynamics was to use the sensitive crystallization method to analyze substance mobility in composts. It also found wide diagnostic use in medicine as a method for analyzing blood. The image shows a picture of blood that is healthy. Small amounts of blood are added to solutions of copper chloride and then very, very slowly evaporated at controlled temperatures and completely isolated from any source of vibration. The harmony of the upper image shows health, but the image below is of blood that shows a congestive section that indicates difficulty in a particular organ. Over time, researchers developed a library of the types of disturbances revealed by such pictures. The sensitive crystallization method was taken up by Will Britton in his Woods End laboratory. Will developed methods for municipal composting and later created methods for carbon sequestering to mitigate climate change. These efforts drew some attention from mainstream science. While these technical advances created funding support for anthroposophical science, corporate needs for repeatable scientific outcomes acted a bit over time to gradually dampen interest in star wisdom. Well-done studies by Maria Thun, Emanuel Vogler, Hugo Irby, and others languished either from loss of data due to war or to difficulty in replicating results. Star wisdom is neither a science nor an art. Its purpose is to build an organ of cognition in the human soul that can perceive how the cosmos and the nature interact. The patterns of interaction are a blueprint of the gradual transcendence of the soul into a spiritual domain. Rudolf Steiner linked the rhythms of the seasons to the influences of the archangels and said it was the key to understanding the healing forces of the spirit. Steiner's view was that cosmic rhythms hold the secret to the transformation of substance. The fading of star wisdom in biodynamic dialogue is significant, since the actual work in biodynamics requires working into nature to transform the physical substances. The study of star wisdom can inspire new avenues of research in medicine, agriculture, nutrition, and hopefully instigate interest in establishing festivals of renewal in the spiritual life of communities. Thanks for watching. Yeah, so there's an old saying among the alchemists, and they said, when you wish to enter into these mysteries, you need to work and pray. And then when you work, or you need to pray and then work and then pray and then work and then pray and then work. In the praying, you need to learn to let go of what you thought you learned when you worked. And in the working, you need to begin to appreciate what we could call seemingly accidental events. If you look in the history of regular science, you'll find most of the world-changing events happen as a kind of accident. But the reason why the accident became a kind of litmus for everything else is because the researcher had a practice of simply repeating again and again and again what they thought they knew, but they saw that something was not quite right. And seeing something is not quite right, that to me is the mark of a developed organ of cognition. So when Rudolf Steiner talks about organ of cognition, he used a technical term in German. It was called Gemüt. And Gemüt, G-E-M-U-T, Gemüt. And it means warm-heartedness, or a heart that can perceive warmth. And that a heart that can perceive warmth is the essence of working in the natural world. I don't work with animals a lot, but I do certainly watch the birds and foxes and skunks and coons and everything that come to try to dig up my garden beds. I do watch them a lot with warm-heartedness. And warm-heartedness is, can you teach me what you're doing? And the same happens for plants. In agriculture or in working with plants, they call it a green thumb. And my understanding of a green thumb is understanding what is going on when a plant begins to show yellow. Yellow is a universal signal among plants that you need to pay attention. And what it means is that the plant is going through some phase of transformation. And it takes being out there every day, again and again, and asking, I could say, asking the plant, can you help me understand what's going on in you? You know, if you go online today, you look at all these videos of somebody finds a baby squirrel or a hedgehog or something that is stuck, or a fox that's caught in a fence, and then they release it, or a whale, and then it comes back to talk to them and say thank you. And we can kind of understand that in the realm of an animal, but in the realm of a plant, what would it be where a plant said thank you? And I can tell you, they can do that. But it's a very, very subtle way of understanding what the language is. And it's my understanding that Steiner's idea of the four archangels, or the passing of the baton from one archangel in the season to another archangel, is a kind of training in Gemüt. It's a training in understanding through every season there is a reason, turn, 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 a time to harvest, a time to sow, a time to take care of what's been spoiled, a time to put things by. In the natural world, the seasonal pattern, or a training in the Gemüt to perceive different degrees of warmth and the potential for warmth. And the potential for warmth in the yearly round is an analog of the social consciousness of the life of festivals in the community. And it's my understanding that when the shit hits the fan with the climate, that a lot of what's going on in the political realm is going to be, oh, wow, maybe I better pay attention to warmth, global warmth, maybe, as a litmus for the need for humans to pay attention to human warmth, instead of people making fun of other people in the public realm, people trying to help other people without the expectation that something's going to come back from it. It's not, human warmth is not transactional. Human warmth is love, or warm-heartedness, even towards the things we don't understand. And so my hope has always been in my life to try to help people understand this Gemüt thing. What does it mean to be warm-hearted? It doesn't mean to be a pushover. It just means to have the ability to perceive how someone else is receiving my attention. That could be a mineral. That could be a gem. Is receiving my warmth. You say, well, what are you talking about, man? That's like a mineral. Yeah, but within that mineral, within that gem, there are metals that have gone to the creation of that gem through time, that are exact same metals that are allowing your mitochondria to metabolize what it needs and to give off effluents through a cell wall. Exact same metals, electrolytes. And what I've recently found out is that there's a lot of research in the third world now, in Korea and in Asia, on how the neurotransmitters in the blood are present in plants. And there are, in the plant, hormones act, what is the German word? Is Gemut, Gemut. And it just means warm-heartedness. So in the research that's being done by people who are still connected to traditional ideas about things, they don't have a problem in saying that the plants have in them analogs of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine upregulates things so does auxin in the plant. And what they're finding is dopamine and auxin have a relationship. Serotonin and GABA as neurotransmitters that downregulate things have a relation to cytokinin and those types of plant hormones in the plant world. So the plants have, even though they don't have a nervous system, in the area surrounding the plant, as Steiner put it, the astral realm is active in the way in which insects bring to the plant animal natures that cause their use of electrolytes to resemble neurotransmitters. In my book, this is a door that's open to new avenues of making medicines. And it's been my habit, so to speak, to try to get to the bottom of this. I never will, but that's okay. If you're an alchemist, you need to understand you're never really going to understand the whole enchilada, but you can make a contribution towards understanding how minerals, plants, animals, and humans are related in ways that are scientifically provable. This is, I think, we have the gear and we have access to information in ways that we never did. And in my work, I spent a lot of time surfing abstracts from scientists in the third world, Asia, South America, India, and they have had the advantage of coming to the West and getting trained in highly technical sciences, and they're going back into their traditional cultures and researching the use of plants and minerals in a traditional way with very, yeah, Gemüt. Thank you, Gunther. God bless you, Gunther. Haven't seen you in a while. So, so this quality of the invisible forces that science is researching is present in biodynamics as the seed. That's why Lily Galisko and Theodore Schwenk and Shani Green and Will Brinton, all these people that did the work back in the day, they were tracking this, trying to use contemporary scientific methods to track the activity of invisible forces. In the larger work in biodynamics, back in the 70s and 80s and even the 90s, there was a theme, get big or get out. That was kind of what happened in agriculture. You get big or you get out. And if you get big, you have enough money to have people do research for you. And the research was about what is going to make the most profit. And unfortunately, in my estimation, that profit motive overtook the Gemüt motive in biodynamics. It just took over the idea that if you're in biodynamics, you need to do research that's going to show how much profit we can make. And I think it led biodynamics into deeper parts of the woods where we lost a thread that was present in Rudolf Steiner's thinking chemically right from the very beginning about the nature of Gemüt as a research principle. Warm-heartedness is universal in the natural world. It's not just Darwin's survival of the fittest. It's cooperation. And if you read the history of science, you can find that there was just the same amount of research being done in science to show cooperation as it was to show conflict at the time of Darwin. but because of forces that were operating in the Dark Brotherhoods, we could even say at that time, that cooperation research in the sciences was marginalized, and it became survival of the fittest, get big or get out. And I think that warm is about to turn. I think with climate change, I have a saying now. I think nature will out Trump. There's going to be a reckoning somewhere along the line about climate, and that will then cause a shift in the paradigm. And I'm hoping that the work I'm doing after I croak and I'm pushing up some flowers, that will help people do that. If you're interested in that, Ben got me a GoPro, and finally I learned how to use that damn thing uh, without messing up. But I'm doing a lot of videos of work in the garden that I think can be useful to people. So if you're interested in that work, stay tuned, because now I have my GoPro, and now he got me a unit where the audio is much better. I spent much time being stupid about the audio, but now we have good gear. And I can go out there, and we have a lot of research that's happening now with YouTube video outreach about fava beans and plant research, and we have a lot more coming. So that's kind of my little follow-up to that. I think the original impulse by Steiner had to do with a warm-heartedness as a research tool for pursuing ideas in the natural world. And I think biodynamics and the people that I know that are connected to this kind of work that we're doing, they understand that this is turning the page, and we're going to find Gemütlich as the operating principle in biodynamics.
Thank you, Dad. So I wanted to mention something that I prepared the other day. Dennis had shared with me a three-ring binder of articles that he had collected from the Biodynamic Journal back in the 70s and 80s. And it arose out of a conversation that we were having about the quality of research that he had noticed from folks at that time when it wasn't as profit motivated. And I asked him to send it to me. And so what I did is I scanned all of those articles and organized them a bit to share with everyone. And there's a link. Here's the link. It's also just up on the website. They're just links to PDFs that I scanned. And the reason I wanted to do that is I felt like it's difficult to see how things have changed unless you've lived it. And one of the reasons why I feel like bringing our elders in to share what they've learned over the years is that, unfortunately, in our culture, elders tend to be relegated to the dustbin. And I feel like that's a massive loss. And so a part of what we're trying to do with Soil, Soul, and Spirit is provide access to that wisdom. And in my looking at the Biodynamic Journal, I discovered a website that someone worked with the Biodynamic Journal over the years. And it's a website called soilandhealth.org. And they worked with the Biodynamic Association of the US to archive and make available all of the past biodynamic research journals. And what I was struck by in these articles is what Dennis was sharing here, this Gemüt, this heart warmth. And with the younger generation of biodynamic farmers, and you could say this impulse towards what some people call hipsterdom, or that hipster movement, it's the seeking of the younger generation towards that heart warmth, where it's about a feeling and an experience of connection with the natural world. And so many of you maybe are of my generation or younger and recognize that impulse to say, I want to put my hands in the dirt. The technology is well and good, and it's fine to be on it, but it doesn't feed my soul the same way an afternoon in the garden does, or even picking weeds, you know? And so that's a big part of what we're trying to do here in this symposium is reconnect this wisdom and this heart and this spirit to what we're doing. So Dennis, thank you so much for starting us off so wonderfully. I wanted to ask a little bit. There's a stream of work that we've done in our video work where you've put wonderful little sculptures and kind of created these little sanctuaries around the garden. Would you share a little bit more about how that relates to this question of heart, Gemüt?
Yeah. Um, so in the little tutorial I did there was the book of nature and the book of the human. And the book of the human is the artistic impulse. And the artistic impulse also fell prey to the profit motive. Get big or get out, become famous and have your paintings in, you know, modern museum, and everybody will come and pay money and you'll get rich. Um, it's my, I have a tradition, I'm Polish, and in the Slavic community, there's a tradition of something called Tchotchke. It's a Tchotchke, Tchotchke. And that translates out to be something called a bauble or a trinket. It's like something you'd get, a mug you would get when you went to Disneyland. And then you take it and it's a tchotchke. It's a little something. But hidden in tchotchke is a kind of political, in your face, I'm going to fly under the radar with my little tchotchke and bring it into a religious kind of context. People don't know, like Andy Warhol was Slavic, and uh, he had all his commercial stuff. But underneath his commercial work was a deep religious impulse of serialization, of repetition of imagery in order to become a kind of tchotchke, a mantra about, um, in an artistic context, about the spiritual world, about the nature of the spiritual world. So in my work in the garden, when I first inherited the little garden space, it was a mess. The guy across the street, he's a great guy, but he had grown corn there for like 6 years in a row with very little fertilization. So basically, it was just a clay pit. And over the years, I've developed it and pulled out garden beds from the clay and muck and dug them out and made little containers for herbs and things. And then I realized it's kind of like the guy down in LA, Watts, you know, make this an artistic impulse. So I gathered little gems and ground up rocks of different colors and stuff and cast them in concrete and put them around in the corners where you enter in. And then I found, well, I could arrange the rocks into symbols of the spiritual world as a kind of protection. So that's tchotchke. And in now I make tchotchkes. I make shrines, little shrines to the Blessed Mother out of wood, and little incense burners, and little I spent a lot of time in my shed cutting woods that I've gathered over the years into very small panels and gluing them together with carvings of the Blessed Mother on the inside. And then I send them to friends. I send them to people that I think could use them. And that idea of Tchotchke, um, art from the heart, yeah, this is warm-heartedness, and it has to do with the nature of the will. So the nature of the will is I do something to get profit. That will is cold. But I do something to make somebody else feel better. That will is warm. That's Gemüt. So when I'm out there pouring little pebbles in cement to make a picture of an angel to put in a corner of my garden with a little statue of the Blessed Mother made in clay, nobody's going to pay me to do that. And that will is just open to be present as a kind of protection. And to me, when I'm walking up and down between these little sculptures and I look at them, every time I look at them, I'm getting another impact of the nature of will to simply be a celebration of what is in the natural world as a link to the invisible forces from the divine world. And to me, that's the Black Madonna. It's always been a muse for me since I've been 5 years old. My grandma said, the Our Lady of Czestochowa. And I said, well, what is that? She said, that's the patroness of the Polish nation. And well, why is she black? Well, she understands suffering. And she has warm-heartedness towards those who would not do evil to others. And so that's my little shot. That's my inner world now is made of these little wooden shrines and little carvings of little black Madonnas and little cement plaques of angels made out of ground up rocks and stuff. So that little video there is to me is a way that I protect the space of the plants so that they can incarnate in a place that's protected. And to me, in my old age, I think that is good. I guess I could say that's good. At least it makes me feel like I'm doing something that's not participating in the great stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Because it does, it changes the feeling of being in the space.
yeah. That it creates a protected space of will.
Mm.
It's will that doesn't expect anything back.
Yeah. Would you speak a little bit about how one might bring that warm-heartedness into that scientific aspect into the research?
Yeah, it simply means that I understand that I do not understand. If I understand that I don't understand, I am in a place where I'm receptive to what happens when I'm trying to do an experiment and it goes, quote, wrong. Uh, when it goes wrong, uh, I now know that that means I need to open my heart to an understanding. So I take what I think went wrong, and then before I go to sleep, I just say, well, what's going on there? Can you help me out? And then the next time, maybe 2 days later, I go out and I'm looking at something, and suddenly, boom, my heart receives an insight that my habit of mind was blocking, which is modern science. Their habit of mind is blocking the ability to understand what's going on in nature. And so my own habit of mind is I think I know. And when things go wrong, I've had to train myself to say, it's not because it's bad. It just means that there is a doorway being provided for me, or I have to surrender to the fact that I do not know. I have to become warm to not understanding. And when I become warm to not understanding, my heart, my Gemütlich, my warm-heartedness, allows me to simply be present in not understanding without blaming myself or blaming somebody else or blaming the equipment or the economy or whatever. Blame and lying are poison, a deep poison in the world. So if I can learn to tolerate something that went wrong in an experiment that I'm doing, I open my heart to a deeper insight. I take that into sleep as a question. And a couple days later, maybe I'm working on a Tchotchke out there, and the thought comes to me, oh, this is what that is. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that. And I thank then for that. I have a lot of really good tools that I've amassed over the years for doing this stuff. And every time I put one away, I thank it. And that impulse comes from a quote that I've heard about Rudolf Steiner in the agriculture course. There were a group of farmers that came to him and said, you know, we don't like these tractors. We like our horses because we can talk to them and they respond and we feel like they kind of get what we're doing. And the tractor, it just sits there. It doesn't, we kind of get upset with it. It doesn't do anything. And they said, well, what do you think about that? Rudolf Steiner said, I think if you thank your tractor, it'll work better. Because when you thank your tractor, you're actually thanking the elemental beings that are captured in slavery in the machine. Don't rage at the machine. Understand that the machine is capturing elemental beings that can be liberated by thanking them for their sacrifice to being captured in the machine. Gemüt.
Yeah. Such a picture, huh?
Yeah, that changed my life reading that thing about Steiner. Where
Yeah.
he smiled and he said, "Oh, why don't you thank your tractor?" I thank every tool I use. I put it back as I thank you, man. You're really doing a great job. I love you. I have names for the tools that I receive from other people. I have Grandpa Joe is a scraper that I use, and the iron, the steel in that scraper, they don't make it that way anymore. I have a little spatula that I got from my dear mom when she passed away. And when I need to do something very special in the kitchen when I'm cooking, I go and I get mom and I thank mom. Thanks, mom. I'm touching the tool that you touched. And
Yeah.
I'm working with it. That changes the way I'm working with the skillet. I received the skillet from my mom. Thanks, mom. You
Yeah.
know, it's kind of like that. I get a little kind of soupy about it, but thank your tools. Thank your food. Thank the people who created the food. Thank the people working in the chicken factory. Hey,
Yeah.
you know, hermano,
Yeah.
gracias.
Yeah. It makes me think of the exercise that you sometimes describe. I think you call it the chord hero, where you imagine back the sequence of that food or the tool, how it became in your hands, all the people that it's passed through from the idea of the tool all the way to you. And there's so much reason for gratitude in the smallest a pencil,
Yeah.
you know.
Gemüt is just gratitude for being given the things that we have been given. Been given so much. And to be able to thank your tools or thank your skillet or thank the people who provided the chicken for you, I think that is a great healing.
Yeah, yeah. Wonderful. Well, more to that later. Anthony Mecca will be talking a bit about that through cosmic nutrition
Yeah,
as those things come into our lives.
right. Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up here, I wanted to just ask, is there anything coming up that you'd like to share that you have going on that you'd like the folks to know about?
Yeah, I think Bob Dylan said, I have a head full of ideas that are driving me insane. So I think that's kind of what's going on. I have a lot of videos I want to do on making incense. Um, um, and I have a course that I'm planning on. It's called Going Home, about the seasonal patterns from the old Celtic calendar of how we can understand life phases and provide healing out of looking at seasonal patterns. So that's a course that I'm planning. And of course, my GoPro now is my friend. I thank it. And it's responding to my thanks. So that's
E-
good. Yeah.
Excellent. Yes. And I can speak to the next item, which is where can people find more of your work online? And that's our shared project, soilsoulandspirit.com. Um, it's been a labor of my love for probably 20 years now. I've been putting his articles online and transcribing old lectures and making them available to you all. So definitely dive in deep there. We spent some time a few years ago putting together the school portion where Dennis wrote articles about kind of the principles that apply to topics like body health, soul health, the natural sciences, alchemy, and explore deeply those principles that he uses to do his research. And then we continue to add more articles to those, which are the application of those principles, whether it's in the garden, whether it's in the kitchen, whether it's in a community ceremony that you're putting together. So if you haven't yet, definitely go and explore that. There's just a deep, deep wealth of knowledge there that he's been generous enough to share over the years, and I've been fortunate enough to capture and be able to share with you all. There are also deep archives that I am continuing to pull from to make available to you all. We have probably 15 years of recorded lectures. We've only done maybe a small portion of them that we're continuing to process, as well as articles. There's plays that he's written. We have, I think, the final version of The Alchemy of Holy Week. I'm in the final stages of designing that. We've had an editor working over the summer on that. Thank you, Tanya. And it should be ready by Holy Week this year for you to purchase a print copy of it. So many things coming out. Thank you again so much, Dad, for your generative nature and your generosity and the inspiration for all these things that we're putting together.
Thank you. Right back at you, my bro. I love you. Yeah, thank
Love you
you.
too. Yeah. Thank you so much.